Christmas is only a few weeks away and it's time to get started with the Christmas baking. Today we'll make beautiful looking, tasty Springerle. That's a German thing from the south and I'll show you how to make them. The recipe only calls for 3 main ingredients. This is equal amounts by weight: flour, powdered sugar, and the eggs. And then we also need a leavening agent and anise, but this doesn't come in until we get ready to bake them because this is a 2-day operation. So traditionally they are made for the leavening agent with Hulshornsalz, that is ammonium bicarbonate or baker's ammonia. It has nothing to do with the household ammonium, so it won't have an ammonia taste to it at all. This is used for a lot of small things that have a thin crust on top, like crackers and things like that. But you can substitute with regular baking powder. It may not work out exactly the same way, and that's why today I make the dough and then 2 batches, one with the Hochschwanzsalz and one with the baking powder, so we can see how this turns out. And then of course another thing we need are the molds. There's still time right now to order some. They sell them still. I think the online retailers have them. These are old ones. Some are from my grandma. I especially like the little cow. She always turns out nice. That's what we need. Let's get started. Getting my beaters out of the drawer. Somebody explain to me how this happens. Unbelievable. So first we mix the eggs with the powdered sugar until they're nice and foamy. This looks good. Now it's time to add the flour. I start out with about half, incorporate with the beaters, and then eventually get so thick we have to take it out and knead it through. Now, ordinarily you would put in your ammonium carbonate, whatever it's called, the Hulshornsalz or the baking powder in there with the flour. But because I make these 2 comparison batches, I'll just divide them up and I'll put it in now with some extra flour. And the amount is a curious thing. See, it says here, Messer Spitze Hulshornsalz. That literally translates to knife tip. So that's how much we'll put in there. Okay, knife tip of Hulshornsalz and a knife tip of baking powder. Okay, here we go. This is how that dough is. It's a very fine dough. It's still a little bit sticky. We're going to let this rest in a little bit anyway, and I'm going to get ready to do the other one. Both are ready. This is the Hulshornsalz and this is the baking powder one. I'll just cover them with some cling wrap and put them in the fridge for an hour. The hour's up, the doughs are out, and now we'll get to the nitty-gritty. What you need is something to distribute flour very thinly, you see? This is a tea egg because it has this really thin, fine mesh. This also works good for powdered sugar and especially for distributing in diatomaceous earth, the DE in the garden. And then I have a roller just to cut the edges of the cookies and 2 of these because I know I can cut this one and I can cut the bigger one and they have nice outside edges. So let me get going. I'm gonna try to put up the tripod for this so we can actually see, because this is complicated one-handed. Okay, so first we cut a piece of the dough and very lightly dust the surface. I'll put that on here. And then I also very lightly dust my rolling pin. And I will get this to about 1/2 inch thick. You don't want them too thin, or else they're not going to look much like a cookie and they won't rise correctly. So now for this one, what are we going to do? A fish. So I dust the fish part, turn it upside down, and then press that in And here's the fish. Now we'll do this one. Upside down. Do not forget to flour your molds or they won't come out correctly. Now on the round one, I use this. And on the fish, I'll use there it is. Isn't that beautiful? Look. And then on the fish, I use this one, but you can use a regular knife as well. Here we go. And that's about how thick they are. And I'll put them on a baking sheet with parchment paper. Alright, that took a while, but it's finally done. This tray is with the ammonium whatever, the Hochschwanzsalz. These are the cookies here, and that one is with the baking powder. Aren't they beautiful? My lovely cows. And then there's the aftermath. But that's pretty easy to clean up. And now they have to rest overnight in a cool, dry place. Now dry is where it may ruin my whole operation because it just started to rain. Florida, unpredictable weather, plus it's 2020. But I'm sure we'll manage. They come out somehow. Even if they're not the prettiest, they'll still be edible. And now I have to deal with packaging all this up. This is instant rice I make, so I don't have to cook forever if somebody wants rice for lunch. And then I have to deal with 3 flats of eggs tomorrow. These are beautiful. Okay, next up, we'll see how they bake up. So they'll be drying out nicely tonight. Well, no, they won't because there's rain and 90% humidity. I'm not sure I'm going to do this. I may stick them in the dehydrator for a little bit to make another batch, another test batch. We'll see. The next morning, here comes the moment of truth. Let's do this test batch. This is the baking powder one. They look very similar to the ammonium one. And I'm going to cook up a small batch where I have it marked too. What we do now is sprinkle a little bit of anise seeds on there. Don't leave this out. This really makes them taste like the way they're supposed to taste. And then we take each cookie and baste it with a little bit of water on the bottom, set it on the sheet, and then it goes in a 300-degree oven. Here we go, all equal. Now they're supposed to rise from the bottom with the top staying as it is without cracks. Let's see if I can do it. Ooh, it's starting to look nice, but I better close the door. They take a little bit longer. And 8 minutes later, they're out of the oven. Now, I don't think there is that big a difference. However, on the cat one, for example, the right side buckled up more and this one is flatter. The left ones look kind of the same. The disappointing though is that the cows did not rise nicely in either group. It's a stampede. They're all going after this little bird in the corner. Okay, one last experiment. I have a feeling that mine puffed up like this a little bit, which they're not supposed to do, that regular puffing. It may really have to do with the humidity, so I'll just put these guys on the dehydrator on the lowest setting, but with the door open to give them for 20 minutes, maybe 18, to give them a little extra dry up, and we'll see if that makes a difference. Here we are for the grand finale. Let's examine these guys. Everything on the left was done with the ammonia, the Hochschwanzsalz, and everything on the right was done with baking powder. And there is a difference between the tops and the bottoms. So the tops, I mean, they look quite pretty, right? It's cookies. But there are some things, like this one from the baking powder aisle. Okay, watch this. The top cracks, okay? So it puffed up underneath and you have the top. You would not be able to put this on a German Christmas cookie plate. The whole town would talk about it. So this is a no-go. This one I think did it a little bit as well. And the cows did it. This one not so much. And on the other side, we have this one that did it. And the cat. I think the fish is all right. He's pretty good. So that's not good on either group. This one's cow is hard, the fish is hard. There are failures on either group. Now, of course, they taste the same and you still eat them. But I think what happened is that it really was too humid. They didn't dry up all the way. So like I said before, I put a batch in the dehydrator. And when they came out, they are all good. This is almost the same on the baking powder side, although this one has some little failure, but these are pretty good. So drying them up correctly is definitely a must. If you have a dehydrator, you know, you live oceanside or in Florida like me where the humidity is so unpredictable, if you have a dehydrator, definitely use it. Then there is another difference that comes from dehydrating these. Let me see here, baking powder first. So they have to come up. They are supposed to have this little bottom ridge. So we'll put this down, and this is from the dried up version. Let me find one that demonstrates this good. Okay, when I put these down, and we look at them this way, so this was the pre-dried, you can tell that on the right side, maybe that doesn't demonstrate it too good, but the ones on the right side definitely come up higher, and that's how you want them. You want them to have this nice puffy leg. We call it a leg, a fierce leg. They have to come up like that. And on the Holstein sides, it did it too, even more so. See, you can see the bottom part that is, why is it not focusing? Here we go. The bottom part that looks different than the top part. So instead of rising, they really push down to come up. And that makes them the special thing they are. And that's what the German housewife is very proud of. So, and then on the bottom we have the anise seeds. You don't want to really brown them on top, but they get a little bit brown on the bottom. And in case you wondered what they look like inside, that's it. They are at this point a little bit hard, but you can soften them up with an apple slice in a tin can. I mean, they're not cracker hard, but still you have chewy. If you don't soften them up, it's like hardtack with sugar. So that was the experiment. If you don't have the baker's ammonia, don't worry about it. Use the baking powder. It'll work too, but then especially make sure that they are really dried. Humidity doesn't go with them. So I'm gonna package them up all willy-nilly. They get eaten either way. And then I'm gonna put away all the canned beans from, well, yesterday's job. And then I'll kick back and decorate the Christmas tree. Thanks for watching.